Hello, welcome to the conversation here on News Central Television. This is the show where we bring you all the latest political happenings on the African continent. I'm Gbenga Aborowa.
And I'm Rita Omodia. Today on the program, we will tell you about the latest development in Nigerian politics as President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered all public servants, officials with political aspirations to resign. Meanwhile, our second discussion will be from Burkina Faso, where suspect in Thomas Sankara's murder has been ordered to pay 1.3 million US dollars in damages to the beneficiaries of former head of state Thomas Sankara. I must say that the political space around the African continent is really getting hot, especially in Nigeria with a lot of developments coming up.
It will also be instructive to note that it's the other way around. So we go to Burkina Faso first and then come down to Nigeria. But the president has made a pronouncement that political appointees should resign before Monday if they are interested in contesting. But I think it's a huge gamble.
Silly time frame.
Yeah, they say a bird in hand is better than two in the sky. So it's left to see how many will resign before Monday.
All right, well, it's left to see what's going to happen before Monday for the deadline. But right now, let's start with Burkina Faso, where the military court in Ouagadougou has ordered former President Blaise Compaore and 9 other defendants to pay more than 800 million Central African francs, that is 1.2 million euros, in damages to the beneficiaries of the former head of state Thomas Sankara and his aides assassinated in 1987. This comes after a trial last month that sentenced the group to lengthy jail terms and a case that afflicted the Sahel state for 34 years.
Now, this sum will be paid jointly by Blaise Compaore, the former commander of his guard Hyacinth Kafando, and the former head of the army in 1987, Gilbert Diendere, all sentenced to life imprisonment in early April for their involvement in the assassination, as well as 7 other defendants sentenced to between 3 and 20 years in prison. According to the court decision, the Burkinabe government will have to compensate the beneficiaries if the convicted persons unable to pay the amount. Now, joining us live from Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso to discuss this is Didier Sibiri Kabore. Glad to have you, Didier. Thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, Didier, late Captain Sankara and 12 of his colleagues were gunned down by a hit squad on October 15, 1987, at a meeting of the ruling National Revolutionary Council. Why did the trial take so long to come to the fore?
Thank you for the question. Well, let's say that it was not easy. At a certain moment, things were really tough, but they tried their best, facing the fact that we are undergoing, let's say, a security issue. They've been able to, at last, to come with results, ask people to compensate for. Yes, it really took time. It really took time before they come back with this decision. And your question to know how so much time that we are undergoing an issue was not easy to take. So, but at last they came with this at the time and the case to victim say their suffering.
All right, Didier, I can imagine how much the family, especially of the late Thomas Sankara, would feel with this judgment, especially a case that has been going on since 1987. And you rightly said about how long this trial is taking. But we also know that Burkina Faso's former president, Blaise Compaore, who was sentenced in absentia to life imprisonment, is currently on exile in the Ivory Coast. Now, the question will be, is he likely going to pay the fine as ordered by the courts? I mean, that has been the question among a lot of people.
I mean, as a former head of state, he was president for over 25 years. He should be able to afford the fees, but...
is it about being able or actually going according to the court order?
I'm yet to see a response from his team or his lawyers with regards to the sentence in April, and it was one of the questions I wanted to ask Didier. But going by antecedents, I don't think he would respect the court judgment. Is in neighboring Ivory Coast, living his exile with his friend, who is they used to be buddies in ECOWAS, President Alassane Ouattara, and he's enjoying some sort of protection with him.
You know, Gbenga, earlier on, I think when we were discussing, especially with the judgment of the former president, that's Blaise Compaore, the question was, will he actually be extradited from Ivory Coast, knowing that he actually has some benefits with the Ivory Coast president?
So as long as Alassane Ouattara is president of the Ivory Coast, that will not happen. But Alassane Ouattara is not going to be president of Ivory Coast forever. So we wait to see what happens and how much pressure is put on by the Burkina government to the Ivorian authorities demanding his extradition and demanding for justice. But if he was to choose between serving a life sentence or paying the fine, I'm sure you know the obvious answer.
He would rather pay the fine, obviously.
Exactly.
Of course, there's a situation going on in Ivory Coast, or rather in Burkina Faso, especially with the murder of the late Thomas Sankara. He was a revolutionary leader, and as we've been talking, we've been seeing lots of people who have been calling for justice, especially with the murder of Thomas Sankara. And right now, we're having a fine placed on the former president, Blaise Compaore, of about 1.2 million euros. That's a lot of money.
A whole lot of money. You know, I asked Didier earlier why this trial took so long. Sankara was killed on the 15th of October 1987. This trial only started last year because, I mean, after he was killed by his good friend and deputy Blaise Compaore, everything he did was upended by Blaise Compaore's government. They almost wanted to erase his memory. There were no investigations and all of that. So it's only natural that it was after he left office, after he was disgraced out of office and fled into exile, that this trial started. But like people say, justice delayed is better than justice denied. So I'm sure Burkina Faso is very happy about that.
All right. Okay, I think we also have Didier back online with us. Didier Sibiri Kabore. Thank you so much for joining us back on the conversation. So we're looking at the fine being placed on the former president, Blaise Compaore, of about 1.2 million euros. And the last question I asked you was the fact that Blaise Compaore was sentenced in absentia to life imprisonment, is currently on exile in Ivory Coast. Now, is he likely to pay the fine as ordered by the courts? Well, we do hope to have Didier back with us subsequently. I mean, we're still looking at the issue of the statements coming from Compaore and his lawyers. What exactly are they going to say? Will they go in with the fine or not? That's the questions a lot of people are asking, especially it's not even just Blaise Compaore. I mean, you also talked about the fact that the deputy, that's General Gilbert Didier, was also convicted in this murder of Thomas Sankara. So we wonder, will justice really be served on these people?
And it's important that justice is served because if you look at the person of Thomas Sankara, he's not only celebrated within the borders of Burkina Faso, he's seen as an African icon, as somebody that fought for the emancipation of Africa and also trying to remove the tentacles from the colonial powers and Africa and prevent exploitation. And it was one of the reasons why it was assassinated, because many people thought, you know, this, if you have this sort of ideas, this revolutionary ideas, it's dangerous and there could be a contagion effect on neighboring states and Africans will start having independent thought. The colonialists always wanted to have their puppets that they could easily control. So he was seen as having dangerous ideas. They thought of him as a Marxist. And that's why he was eliminated. But for the sake of justice and also for posterity's sake, it would be nice to hear from Blaise Compaore himself.
I mean, he hasn't said anything since.
He hasn't said anything. hear his side of the story. But let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. I mean, looking at this man, Thomas Sankara, and even right now, with the way Burkina Faso is, I mean, Burkina Faso is still dealing with security issues, and a lot of questions have come down on the president of Burkina Faso at the moment. So some people would wonder that all these things coming up just a year right now, is it probably a political gimmick so that people can see the president as doing well in his tenure in office, or actually to bring justice to the matter of Thomas Sankara? Because we've been reiterating the fact that this case has been on since 1987. So is it just a political gimmick going on, or really the president wants to bring justice for the murders of Thomas Sankara?
I doubt it. So this case has been ongoing since before the ouster of the last president, President Christian Kabore. It just happens to have been concluded under the military regime, this new junta that took power 3 months ago. Let's also remember that they've only been in power for 3 months.
Yeah,
and
true.
The judiciary has its independence, and I don't think there was any influence coming from the junta to influence the outcome of the judgment. But talking about the security situation in Burkina Faso, that's a different side of the conversation we're looking at having. In the last 3 months, things have gotten worse.
Yeah.
There are more attacks, and death toll has quadrupled compared to the same period last year. But people would say they've only been there for 3 months. These insurgents are taking advantage of the break in the chain of command.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's fair to judge them on the security report of just 3 months?
I mean, I don't think it's fair for 3 months, but at the same time, we should be able to see some efforts on the part of the government. I mean, what exactly have they been able to do to forestall this insurgent attack? So let's see some efforts. 3 months might be too short, but there's a way you see an effort of a government to deal with a particular situation that you know that, okay, this government is going through the right path. And I think that's what the people are looking for there, because people, the Burkina Faso people, are still complaining of insecurity going on in the country. So let's see an effort. Then we can say probably, okay, how well has this government gone? How well have they done in forestalling insecurity in Burkina Faso? I think that should be.
But you know, when you're fighting a dangerous enemy, they don't even have time for those sort of questions. So I believe we have Didier back.
Didier is okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Didier now. Didier, can you hear us?
Hello, Didier. Are you there? Okay.
I do not know what is holding Didier down, but we do hope to have you back on the conversation with us.
So as I was saying, I don't hold brief for the Burkina Faso government. I don't hold brief for Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Demiba. But what he said is that he blamed the lack of progress in the security front on the need to set up institutions which will provide a framework for a more effective fight against violent extremism. And these things take time. There's a new government that is different from the old order of things. But the terrorists sees the government as enemy, so they won't wait for you to, set up things and all of that.
That's why
they always look for soft
targets. That's why I'm
targets.
saying that even though 3 months is short, we still need to see efforts from them. I mean, he's talking about institutions. What has he put in place now? I mean, before you come into government, before you say you want to take over, you should have had things put in place.
Very brilliant question. And that was the reason why they kicked out Christian Kabore.
Yeah.
They said because of the deteriorating security situation.
So what did they do? What did they have in place? Well,
3 months down the line, things are worse than they used to be.
I think that puts a question to a lot of people, leaders, governments, so-called military juntas who want to take over government and give an excuse of bad governance or insecurity going on in the country. I mean, what's your framework? What do you hope to do for the people? Because we see it now. You said Christian Kabore is not doing enough to tackle insecurity situations in Burkina Faso.
And then you took over.
And 3 months later, we're not seeing anything. So leaders and government should have a proper framework, because it's not just about coming to rule the people. Let's have what you want to do.
Is it fair to judge him on 3 months of work? Because they always say it's going to get worse before it gets better. So maybe this is the worst we'll see. We can't see into the future. But he said he's put up.
This is the same thing we saw. This is the same thing we saw in Mali, in Guinea, where military juntas give excuses of bad governance, and yet 3 months, 6 months down the line, We still see no effort.
I'm sure they never thought it was going to be this terrible.
No, I didn't
Maybe
think so.
if they did, they would have changed their mind about taking over power. Now they see what it is to have all that power and be under pressure.
Yes, definitely. We're still discussing the issue of Thomas Sankara. Now, if you know Thomas Sankara, the late Thomas Sankara, he was a revolutionary leader, a man of the people, and he has been assassinated since 1987, unfortunately, by his so-called close allies. That's the former president, or rather, the people who have been convicted in this case, the former president Blaise Compaore, and of course, the deputy, that is General Gilbert Didier. All right, we still have... Okay, I'm hoping this time around that Didier would come on the conversation with us.
Because he's on the ground in Burkina Faso and he will give a first-hand account of the situation there. Hi, Didier.
Hi.
Yes, so Didier, why is this trial important to the people of Burkina Faso? Why is it important for them to get justice?
Sorry, I don't have you. I cannot get you.
I said, why is this trial important for the people of Burkina Faso? Why is it important for Thomas Sankara to get justice? Okay, I think we have connection issues with Didier. We'll probably have him some other time on the show. Network issues, I presume.
Definitely. Well, we're still dealing with situations in Burkina Faso where the military court in Ouagadougou has ordered former President Blaise Compaore and 9 other defendants to pay more than 800 million Central African francs, that is 1.2 million euros. We're yet to hear from the former President Blaise Compaore, who has been on exile in Ivory Coast with his ally, the Ivory Coast president, that is Alassane Ouattara. So we wait to see what definitely happens. But right now we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be dealing with more issues on the conversation, as Nigeria is still a hot topic on the political scene. Please stay tuned.
Welcome back to the conversation here on News Central Television. It's now time to shift our attention from Burkina Faso to Nigeria, where public office holders with political aspirations, such as the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele, Ministers of Transportation Rotimi Amaechi, Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio, Labour and Employment Chris Ngige, and others have until May the 16th to vacate office.
Yes, you have that right, and that's because the President, Muhammadu Buhari, through the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, has asked all members of the Federal Executive Council contesting elected positions in 2023 to resign, except the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, who is an elected official. And as that news broke, the Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuba, already resigned.
Also, we understand that the Independent National Electoral Commission has also turned down a request by the 18 political parties to alter the timetable for the 2023 general elections, arguing that acceding to the request would affect its other activities and create unnecessary tension that could negatively affect the general election scheduled to commence on February the 25th next year.
Now, joining us to discuss this, we have joining us Christopher Otaigbe, is a journalist and public affairs analyst. We also have Kunle Adegoke, is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Gentlemen, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much. To be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also have joined us live on the conversation. Achike Chude is also a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much, Achike, for joining us on the conversation.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so I'll start with you, Christopher. Now, the Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuba, has just recently resigned following President Muhammadu Buhari's recent order that asked members of the Federal Executive Council who are nursing ambitions to contest elections in 2023 to quit his cabinet. How do you think this will play out for other candidates?
Well, first of all, they don't have any choice. The president has announced, has made his decision known to them that if you, which is a moral thing to do actually, if you are vying for public office, you need to resign from the public position, office that you are holding presently. I mean, if you are vying for a political office rather, you need to, resign from where you are, to join the race.
I see others following, in that vein very soon. I'm hearing whether Ogbonnaya Onutu has resigned. I don't know. I've not confirmed that. But I'm sure within the next few days, others will join. And that speaks to President Muhammadu Buhari's resolve to ensure that he keeps a, somewhat some kind of clean slate politically regarding this part of his administration, because you can't be serving in my cabinet and you are running for office. That doesn't make sense. So I think, for our democratic experiment, it's good. At least if he can stand by this, and because anything can happen in Nigeria. Don't forget, we have just the same day today, the Court of Appeal voided 8412 Electoral Act. Is it Electoral Act or whatever it is?
Yeah, so 2022.
Yes, so that for me is even suspicious, because I could create a lot of conspiracy theories around that. But so I can't really, I don't know, until next week. Until next week, because before I can say, okay, yes, they actually mean what they're doing.
Thank you.
People may resign, so yes. In Nigeria, anything is possible.
Thank you very much, Christopher. That's why we have a legal expert on the panel. Now, I would like to bring in Barrister Adegoke to interpret what this means legally. Earlier today, Court of Appeal in Abuja did void, as Christopher alluded to, Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act 2022, which stipulates that no political appointees at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at the convention. What do you make of all what has been happening? And did he have to take an order by the President of the Federal Republic that his seating ministers, including his chief law officer, the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, to resign his appointment before contesting for executive office? And also, does this apply to the CBN governor? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The provision of Section 8412 of the Electoral Act 2022 is an innovation which has never been part of the law in Nigeria, electoral law in Nigeria. And this innovation is providing that anybody who is a political office holder cannot participate in the primary election of a political party, cannot vote, and neither can he be voted for. While subjecting this to interpretation, we'll see that the High Court, the Federal High Court in Umuahia, has said that that particular provision is unconstitutional. That accords substantially with my belief. The morality of a sitting political appointee contesting a political office while holding his political appointment is a different consideration. But looking at it from the perspective of the provisions of the law, Section 8412, to a large extent, is imposing a new condition for a person to qualify to contest an election, insofar as you cannot even be nominated by a political party. By Section 8412 of the Electoral Act, the implication is that you are not qualified while you are a political appointee to equally contest an election. That provision is not contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And interestingly, the Constitution is the ground norm, is the highest law, which regulates qualification to contest an election. The Constitution has summarized what is required for a person to be eligible to contest an election. It doesn't mention that where you are a political appointee, you have to resign. There is a category, there is a class of Nigerians that the Constitution says they cannot hold an office and at the same time be contesting an election. They must resign 30 days before that election. Those are persons employed in the public service of the Federation. Here we are referring to persons who are civil servants, or maybe who are members of the military or paramilitary organizations in Nigeria. Those ones are expressly forbidden by the Constitution. They are required to resign 30 days before the election they are contesting in. The Constitution does not now provide for any other class of Nigerians not to be eligible to contest. It is Section 8412 of the Electoral Act that is now making such an introduction, such an innovation, such an intervention. And to that extent, insofar, the law, I'm stating the law now, it's not something that can be subjected to maybe common sense or whatever. It is the provision of the Constitution vis-a-vis other laws. And this has been interpreted by the Supreme Court in other cases, that insofar as the Constitution has summarized what is required to be eligible to contest an election, any other law that seeks to add to it is unconstitutional and shall be void to the extent of its inconsistency with the Constitution. So to that extent, I am saying that Section 8412 that says a political appointee cannot be nominated by a political party is imposing a condition for additional condition for a person to be eligible to contest, and therefore is unconstitutional. Now, while I have not read the decision of the Court of Appeal today, which came out today, and to that extent, I do not want to harp on what the social media or the conventional media could be talking about the decision. But I understand that the court rejected the decision of the lower court of the Federal High Court on the basis that the plaintiff in that case has no local standing. That is, he cannot show in what way he has a special interest that entitled him to even approach the court. Such a person in law will be referred to as a meddlesome interloper, as a busybody that is concerning himself with something that doesn't concern him. If the Court of Appeal had acted up to this particular point, I think they might be right, because I don't know what that plaintiff actually pleaded. However, this issue will still go up to the Supreme Court. And I believe that what the president and the political party APC and other political parties are trying to do now is to make sure that they comply with what the Electoral Act says now, in case the highest court of the land upholds that provision is legal. In case the highest court of the land says that the provision is constitutional. That is why the directive by the president is coming, and it will affect persons who are political appointees like ministers, special advisors, and what have you. So to that extent, I believe that the directive is just in compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, fearing what the highest court of the land may eventually say.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. Now we also have Chike Chude. Now we've heard from the legal perspective here, and we've seen the lawyer saying that Section 84, subsection 12 is unconstitutional according to the Constitution of the country. And he has also said that so far what the president has done is to go in line with the Constitution, is to go in line with the court until we pair the final hearings of the Supreme Court. Now, Chike Chude, the president has ordered that all ministers in the Federal Executive Council should resign. What do you make of this? I do not want to assume your position.
Well, I think the president has done the proper thing in the light of developments, in the light of the fact that they are not in control of what will likely happen should the matter get to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court makes a ruling that would affect the...
Hello, sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Chike Chude. Can you kindly take off your earpiece? It's affecting the quality of our audio. We have a reverb. Thank you. And then we'll continue with the conversation.
Can you hear me now?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, fine. Well, like I said, I think what the president is trying to do is just be careful. He is not, because the reality is that they do not control all the variables in this case, especially with regards to the matter going to court, and they cannot second guess the Supreme Court. So it is better to err on the side of court.
All right.
And I think that is what they have done. And of course, he would have considered what happened, I think it was in Campari State, where the APC ultimately did not get a candidate for the 2019 election. And as a result, they lost the state. And so it is better than...
All right. Achike, please just hold on your thoughts while we try and fix your audio glitch. But at the same time, we still have Christopher with us here. Now, Christopher, we've had the dictates of the law, and so far we've heard from different analysts now, from the barrister, and of course we also heard from Achike Chude saying that the president is just trying to go according with the law. Now, we've also had news now. We saw the IPAC calling for a further extension of the deadline for the primaries. And the INEC said that no, this would not happen because this would affect other schedules for the election, which is slated for 25th of February 2023 and 11th of March 2023. Now, do you think, in your own opinion, that the time given by the INEC for the parties to conduct themselves was too short?
I don't think so. I don't think so because everybody had all that time between 2021 and 2022 to put their acts together. And so INEC itself would have structured its timetable in such a, according to its logistical provision, and secondly, according to, to the state of the nation, as it were. So INEC took a lot of things into consideration before setting those days and and creating the schedule as they have done. So the onus is on the parties to have prepared themselves before now, so that working with the INEC schedule will not be as much of a challenge to them. So, but the way I look at it, I just think that I think this crop of Nigerian politicians are just taking the process for granted. Period. That's where we have found ourselves today, because INEC is INEC. Election dates are election dates. They are set. But though they can be shifted, they can only be shifted when there is an evident emergency. And we all would know that. You can't tell INEC to shift the dates because you think you are not ready to put your candidates together, or you're having issues with one thing or the other. That's your problem. That's your business. That's your business. INEC cannot wait for you. So I believe that, as far as I'm concerned, whatever reason they are giving INEC, for me, it's flimsy. And I must commend the INEC chairman for standing his ground. We can't shift the days. I don't think it makes sense. That's my own opinion, really.
Thank you very much. I'd like to bring in Barrister Adegoke here. Now, Barrister, we've seen a situation where the president has said, he's made his announcement, but the courts have interpreted it as something else. Does this buy the ministers some time? And do you think there will be ministers that would say, hold on, the Court of Appeal has said it's not quite straightforward, so I will not resign my appointment before Monday? Does the president have the constitutional right to ask his ministers to resign? Does he have the backing of the Nigerian Constitution, regardless of what the Court of Appeal says?
Yes, even regardless of whatever the court, regardless of what the Supreme Court may even say, the president is the appointer, and we must get this clear. Nobody should misconstrue what we are going to say here, so it is better to get it right. The president is the appointer. The offices ministers are holding are political appointments. By the provisions of the Interpretation Act, the person who has the power to appoint has the power to remove. And to that extent, which is recognized by the Constitution. In fact, the president may wake up tomorrow and say, I don't even want any of you as my minister again. He can do it anyhow. So to that extent, there is nothing restraining the president from directing his ministers to say, look, go and resign, or otherwise he may even fire them. And they won't have any ground to approach the court. There is no grievance that they can seek remedy for on that basis. So if the president directs that anybody who wants to contest should resign, it is not an infringement on any right of anybody. And it is his office. The Constitution by Section 130 creates the office of the president as the head, as the executive, and now as the other offices like the ministers the Attorney General, the special advisors, through whom the president can carry out his executive functions.
Now, staying with you on this, and with the assumption that these resignations happen, we'll have about 7 ministers that will be missing from the Federal Executive Council. Is there a legal provision for a time frame where these ministers have to resign, or do you think the president can go all the way to May 2023 without appointing ministers? Because he really did take his time in appointing them in the first time during his first term as president.
Yes, there is a lacuna in our constitution, and I think some political office holders, some elected political office holders had exploited this lacuna. The lacuna is to the effect that the constitution does not stipulate the time within which the president must appoint ministers or that the governor must appoint commissioners. It only provides that there shall be such number of ministers as the president may appoint. And to that extent, there is no mandatory provision that this is the particular number that must be appointed. Ministries are therefore not, strictly speaking, juristic personalities, because what is called a minister for power and aviation today may become Ministry of Power and Housing, may become Ministry of Power and Works, or something of that nature. The implication is that whatever the president appoints in this regard is just to be in line with the Constitution. There is no provision that says that these offices must be appointed into within so time. And we believe that the National Assembly may have to amend the Constitution, because we have seen instances that a president will run the executive for like 6 months or more without appointing. A governor will run the executive of the state without appointing commissioners for more than 8 months or so. So to avoid a situation of that nature, it may be necessary to cure this missing gap in the Constitution. So if the Supreme Court even says that it shall not be, the section 84(12) is unconstitutional, that will not affect the power of the president to fire his ministers for reason.
All right, thank you so much, Barry. So I don't know if we still have Achike Chude with us there. Achike, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, wonderful. So we're looking at the implications now. We had it that the Minister of Education has resigned. Minister of State for Education, that's Emeka Nwajuba, has resigned. Wasendo Ogbonnaya Onu has also resigned. What implications will this have, especially on the Ministry of Education? Can you hear us, Achike? All right, while we're still hoping to hear from Chike Chude, let's go back to Barrister Adegoke. Can you hear us, Barrister? So now we also know that the Senate also made an amendment yesterday, which was Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Bill, which was initially passed by the National Assembly. And it was formally known that it would allow only elected delegates of a party, but now statutory delegates will be able to participate in the conventions. What exactly will be the implication for this in the political parties as the congresses are fast approaching? Barrister Adegoke, can you hear me?
I think, I believe we have some network issues. You asked a very brilliant question earlier about the Minister of Education and the Minister of Education for State resigning. But when they were still in office, I mean, ASO has been on strike for how many months?
You know,
so
that
does it make much of a difference?
For me, that was my disappointment, that this is a man, Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuba, paying the sum of 100 million naira for the APC nomination. Meanwhile, the ASU has been on strike for how many months now? February 14, and students are complaining. So let's even say, for you to take a position of the president, what exactly have you done as a Minister of State for Education to avoid or to actually make an impact in society? So are you even fit for that position?
It's about priorities. I think its priorities are elections. And it's good that this is coming. So you know that the ministers that are there in office are not distracted by the politics, because there's a lot that has to be done in developing the country in all areas. So it's a good move.
All right. Okay, we still have Mr. Chris Otaigbe, a public affairs analyst, on us with us for the conversation now. And we're still looking at the issue of the political parties. We also know that the APC adjusted its timetable. And a lot of people are saying that this is as a result of the amendment by the Senate to Section 84, subsection 8, which formally allowed only elected delegates to participate in congresses. But now with this amendment, which is also going to go to the upper house, we have a temporary delegates also going forward for the congresses. So what implications do you think this will have for the political parties as their conventions and congresses are coming forward?
Well, it will make the Congress is more robust, because in fact it was almost an error as far as I'm concerned. How can you tell me that? How can you tell me that you forgot to put it in the electoral act that the president, the vice president, the senate president, and all those elected officers can vote on the voted for? How can you say that you forgot to put that in an electoral act? So I think that was an error that, well, luckily, unfortunately, will be fixed. So it will make the congresses and all these political events that we're about, party events that we're about to have, more interesting, more robust. So for me, that is just, it was an error as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure the legislator would tell you that it was an error on their part. But that's a costly error, really. So for me, it's not really much of an issue, as well as they have now discovered that it was an error and they are now trying to fix it. So that's the way I look at that. But what makes my own concern is still on the issue of the president telling his ministers who have political ambition to resign. I think I love that. And these ministers, some of them were being smart by half. Everybody started going, oh, people are buying funds for me and all of those nonsense. Look at the CBN. Look at the CBN governor telling you that farmers that are going through hell went to put 100.
The CBN governor actually went a step further by going to court to challenge.
In fact,
yes,
you are very correct. In fact, for me, I think the CBN governor has gone off the hinge here. We have never seen a CBN governor, even at the Attorney General, these two people especially. I can tolerate the minister, but I can't take a whole CBN governor, a whole Attorney General, doing this to Nigeria. Nowhere, no country on earth.
And knowing that their positions are very sensitive. INEC keeps sensitive materials in CBN offices.
In fact, let me tell you my own conspiracy theory. And I think they were being smart by half. Why is it that it is today that the Court of Appeal voided 8412, Electoral Act, Section 84, subsection 12? Why is it today? Why is it today that they know that the president was going to tell them to resign? And before then, I read somewhere that President Buhari, the labor minister, was saying something has voided, something has been struck down.
But Christopher, would you praise, because earlier you were talking about coalitions coming forward and buying the nomination form. You heard of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, the fact that he rejected the supposed form that a supposed Fulani group actually bought for him. Now, there's been a lot of pressure for the former president, but so would you commend his efforts? Because he called it an insult.
But then there's a U-turn now. He's still considering now to join APC. So with Jonathan, I don't know what to say. I don't really know what to say, because in one breath, he's trying to sound like a statesman. In another breath, he's just trying to sound some kind of confusion. I mean, trying to be confused. So I think for Jonathan, for the former president, all he needs to do is just please sit down, take a deep breath, and tell us what you really want to do. Number two, the one forbidden thing that Jonathan can never do, if he doesn't want to mess up what is remaining of his rating, is never to join APC. I don't have anything against APC. I don't have anything against anybody in APC, but I'm just talking on the moral ground. For him, anybody can do that. Any PDP man can jump ship to APC, but not him. Let alone pick an APC presidential form. Wow. You would have insulted the whole of your supporters. You would have messed up anything, any modicum of nobility of the office that you held. You know. So, but that's, in fact, let me tell you, sometimes I like to laugh a lot with their comedy here. I'm sure that one person, one of these days, before we close this political, this 2023, where we're going, somebody's going to go to a psychiatric hospital now and tell you that madmen, half-cured madmen, have put together 100 million naira, taking money from their people so that the man, when they vote him in, he will now cure them finally of their madness.
But
another person may go to an orphanage and tell you that orphans put together 100 million naira to buy phone for him.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
We are in an era of comedy, man. We are in an era of comedy.
All right. Thank you, Christopher.
Yeah, but Rita, don't they say the more the merrier? It's a democracy, so let people. I mean, anybody that wants to come out, they're free to. Yes.
All right, we still have Barrister Adegoke now, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. So we're looking at the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and there's been a lot of pressure on them to actually postpone the deadline for the submission of the candidates. But the INEC has stood firm on this ground. So do you think, because if you look at 2019, when the elections were postponed, do you think that INEC is well equipped to give us a credible election and, of course, make sure that all the parties go in accordance to the Electoral Act?
Yes, it is the prerogative of the body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, to design its own timetable and to enforce compliance with such timetable. And that is why when a guideline is published, when a timetable is published, it is a communication to the stakeholders, to the political parties, to the general populace, to ensure that their activities will be pigeonholed within what the body has published as its timetable. And to that extent, one will expect political parties to keep their houses in order. A call for postponement of the day of the submission of party candidates and what have you is calling for an unguided procedure. And that is why a political party that knows that election will be coming on at a particular point in time had been notified long before now that the primaries of the political parties, their convention should be carried out on or before.
And they should be better prepared. Thank you very much, Barrister. We're fast run out of time. I wish we could go on. I will definitely like to have you back very soon. Thank you for your contributions. I would also like to thank Achike, Chude, and Christopher Otaigbe for joining us on the conversation today. This is where we drop the anchor on today's conversation. Many thanks for joining us on the show. I'm Gbenga Aborowa.
And I'm Rita Omodia Gbenga.